Hey everyone, this is basketball loving Dr. NBA. Today I have an interesting story to tell. The best-selling sports comic book series worldwide, Slam Dunk, was made in the 90s. The series inspired thousands of people around the world to play basketball, and I was actually one of them. In the series, Sakuragi Hanamichi, Takanori Akagi, and Uozumi Jun were big men that played in the paint zone, and they were in charge of shooting in the paint zone, rebounds, blocks, etc. Learning the positions of basketball through comic books and games, I thought big men, till the late 2000s, were all terrible at shooting three-pointers. But I started watching games of the NBA in 2011, and my stereotype of them began to fade. And plus that, in 2015, a huge giant that was 7'3" entered, and destroyed all my stereotypes of basketball positions. This giant's name was Kristaps Porzingis. And players with huge heights usually have a bad mid-range and long-range shot, except a few. But this player is able to score in any position with his amazing flick of the wrist. And plus that, he was the tallest player in the NBA till last year. And when opposing defense tried to stop him, they pretty much looked like children compared to him. In this video, I'll be talking about the player who broke roles of positions with his physique and shoot touch. With those two skills, he showed all kinds of explosive scoring. I will introduce you to Kristaps Porzingis. The place that is famous for their nature and their beautiful blonde women, north of Europe, Latvia. Porzingis was born in 1995 in the south side of Latvia, Liepāja. And his parents and older brother were all basketball players, so he would automatically start playing basketball at 6 years old. When he was 12 years old, with his brother's influence, who was playing for a pro-Italian team, Porzingis joined the team near his home and would train for 3 years. And Porzingis' skill and physique grew at an amazing rate. His height at 15 years old was at 6'8", and seeing this prospect's potential, a first division Spain team, Baloncesto Sevilla, recruited him right away. At a young age, he left his home and lived in a different country. But Porzingis had an outgoing personality, so he got along well with others. And plus his skill and height kept growing, and as a result, when he was 18 years old, his height was at 6'12", and would go back and forth with the first division in the youth team. And at the time, he would enter the Nike International Junior Tournament in Europe, and with his height advantage, he humiliated many players. And plus that, with all the three-point shot practicing he did at an early age, it helped him immensely when taking the victory. These performances carried on to the adult league. The head coach that Sevilla had hired, the team Porzingis was playing for, was Aito Garcia Renes. He left a huge mark in the NBA while coaching the Spanish nationality players, Pau Gasol and Ricky Rubio, and was a well-known coach. And with the mindset of sending Porzingis to the NBA, the head coach would increase his playtime in the 13-14 season. And paying his dues, Porzingis would show great performance in 32 games he played. And against the most famous association in Europe, Real Madrid Barcelona, he would get 12 and 14 points, getting important points for the team. As a result, the team that was only ranked 15th out of 18 teams would be led to the 7th spot. It made it to the Euro Cup, where many teams in Europe joined to compete in a tournament. And getting his worth proven, he would start in all the games after that year. And so, starting in all 50 games, his overall average doubled, and in the Euro Cup, he would have an average of 11.6 points and 45% on three-pointers. And the top prospect, under 22 years old, the Rising Star Award was given to him. And not just that, he would get the honor of being ranked in the top 5 prospects in the Spain League. This 7'3" young athlete would improve quickly in 2 years, and through the media and press, the NBA scouts showed great interest in him. And with the mindset of widening his playing stage, he would enter the 2015 NBA draft. But from there, he would be picked as the 4th overall pick, even though he proved his talents. But ironically enough, the team's fans that picked Porzingis was not happy at all, and even cried at the fact he was chosen. Even though this top prospect was now wearing the New York Knicks uniform, the fans did not welcome him, and there were 2 reasons why. First off, the team haven't had a proper draft pick for 15 years, and secondly, a big man like Porzingis that could shoot from range was something they had right before, and it was a total bust. There was a player that was 7 foot, who did not go in the paint zone and stayed on the outside, And with many injuries and bad defense, and also inconsistent shooting, the fans have already been through this. And plus that, he was also from Europe. The nightmare they experienced explains their reaction to Porzingis. And also, they didn't want him, but they wanted the 7th pick who went somewhere else, Emmanuel Mudiay. And Porzingis was at the same weight as the shooting guard, who was 10 inches shorter than he was, making him known to be scrawny. So fans had doubts on whether he could survive in the NBA, and worried that he would get injured over and over again. Even though Chris had gotten all this criticism, he didn't lose confidence, and said he was properly prepared, and said he would bulk up and change, and with that mindset entered the preseason. And right after that, he had 3 injuries and the fans were ready to give up. But he surprised everyone in the regular season that was upcoming. In his first game in the 15-16 season, he was a starting member, and like he promised, he bulked up and weighed more. And with the mindset of proving he was nothing like the former boss on the team, he played the games with focus. And as a result, Kristaps Porzingis' reputation went from a bomb that was going to explode at any time to a lucky charm for the team. Different from the criticism that he wouldn't use his body because of his shooting, he played the game tough and showed physical battles, and showed times he would fight off against veteran players. And even though he was tall, he would consistently move around and look for open space. And plus that, shooting 3-pointers at that height pretty much made the defenders feel invisible. And plus that, he would use the play tactic for screening with his big body, and do the opposite where he would step back and shoot, making their team play hard for defenders to guard. And when on defense, with his huge physique, he would block a lot of shots. And even if they shot from a range, with his wingspan at 7'6", he could block the opponent's sight. And most importantly, the thing that really made the opponents frustrated was rebounds. He would dunk over players who had already gone in position, making the fans in the stadium cheer to the loudest. Furthermore, with his fast-paced movements and his all-around performance, the fans fell for Porzingis. Not long ago, the fans hated him for getting picked in the draft, but that all changed into happiness all of a sudden. And his popularity rose, as his uniform name was sold 4th overall. Now getting motivated by this, Porzingis would score more than 25 points against high-tier teams, showing no signs of being a rookie. And the legend for the Dallas Mavericks, Dirk Nowitzki, after playing against him, showed all kinds of compliments towards him. And just like that, the miracle draft pick, Porzingis, in his first year had an average of 14.3 points, and in his second year had an average of 18.1 points, showing improvement. In a survey that was asked who would lead the future of the New York Knicks, the main key player, Carmelo Anthony, was beaten by this mere second-year player, and he got the title of being the main key player for the team. But that honor would suddenly face a difficult problem. In his debut season, he was ranked in the top 5 rookies in the NBA, and showed improvements in his stats consistently, beating players that were great technicians, and winning the skill challenge. Porzingis would show faster and more improvement than his fellow teammates. But the team's record was nowhere near entering the playoffs, but was in the lower rankings. And getting frustrated from this, the owner of the Knicks, Phil Jackson, and he did more than just criticize the team, and instead said he would rebuild the team, and even said to the press that he would trade key player Carmelo Anthony. But players that looked up to Carmelo protested against Jackson, who claimed Carmelo was useless, and Porzingis had showed rebel against Jackson for these statements as well. And with the start of controversy between the players and the owner till the end of the season, the atmosphere in the team was not so great. And a well-growing Porzingis was on the verge of getting traded. And many teams showed interest in taking him, and because so, the worth for his uniform started to drop. And Porzingis was frustrated from this, so there was a time when he didn't attend a team event. And as time went by, the criticizing for Phil Jackson by the fans grew immensely, and not being able to witness this, the association staff made a decision, and that was to trade the criticized Carmelo Anthony and kick the owner Phil Jackson out, and make the new team based around Kristaps Porzingis. And just like that, the new king for New York would be Porzingis, and stated to the press he would do his best as the new key player. And in his third year in the 17-18 season, he would show his best performance. In his first 11 games, he had an average of 30.4 points and 51% shot success rate, and a 41% three-point shot success rate as well, showing traits of the scoring leader and MVP and leading his team. And one day, he scored 40 points and had 6 blocks, doing everything on offense and defense. And as a result, the New York Knicks stadium was always like a parade. But the fans' happiness in the middle of the season of February 6, 2018 was completely shattered. Why would you pick a player that would only get injured in the tough NBA? Was what many fans and analysts said during the draft, and all that criticism towards Porzingis was not wrong. To survive in this league, he did bulk up, and as a result, he did show he could compete in the physical level. But even though he was tall, he would move around a lot for open shots, and that made him lack stamina, making his driving and physical battles weaker. And so, he would show excessive shooting. And in that tough process, he still had to score, so he had no choice but to carry his quad injuries and endure it. But all that stacked up, and eventually, after a knee collision, he would get a ruptured anterior cruciate ligament, a serious injury that could ruin one's career. Porzingis would not be able to play the rest of the season due to that. He had an average of 22.7 points and showed great performance and was enough to be picked in the 2018 All-Stars, but would fall short with the All-Stars coming up. And seeing Porzingis like this, the fans were left heartbroken and empty inside. With surgery needed and at least 1 year of rehab, New York would have to face another season of failure without a key player. And even though he would return, his skills and abilities weren't guaranteed a full recovery. And from the team's point of view, they were frustrated. But time went by, and Porzingis would be focusing on his rehab. And close to 1 year since his injury had passed, there was news that shocked the NBA fans, and that would be that the Mavericks would take Porzingis in a trade. And the reason was because Dirk Nowitzki was retiring. His new successor would be Porzingis, with his playing style similar to Dirk's. In fact, the Mavericks showed interest for many years. With his body almost recovered, he was allowed to play in games, but Dallas wanted the best from him at his best condition, so they made him rest in the 18-19 season as well. And a few months later, the 19-20 season started, and Porzingis being fully recovered, and Dallas in their opening game decided confidently to put him in, and the fans all over the world would expect his former performance once again. And even though Kristaps Porzingis had a height advantage, it was not known when and where he would get injured next in this rough environment, like he was always walking on fire. And plus that, while he was in New York, he had already gotten 14 injuries, and out of the 296 games he could have played, he only played in 110 of them. And so, Porzingis was known as a Band-Aid. And the New York fans, while crying, took this ticking time bomb in, and after seeing his will and determination, they acted if they didn't so, and were happier than ever cheering him on. But again, they would cry while sending him away. Kristaps Porzingis and the fans were very unfortunate, and after the trade was made, they said that he will always be in the heart of New York, and he was sent on his way to the Dallas Mavericks to play. He tried his best to recover in rehab and focus on playing the team tactics, and is currently playing in the 1920 season. Even though he had weaknesses on defense, physical battles, and his stamina, he covered all that up with his offense. And he was good enough to be in the All-Stars in his third year. Will he be able to win his injuries in the 1920 season? And can we expect his body to fully return with his skill traits? Okay, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, I'll be back with better content next time. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe.